This is a review of Mythmaking, behind the scenes of Star Wars Episode 2 Attack of the Clones, which is kind of a dumb title considering the other two prequel books were more succinctly titled The Making of Star Wars Episode whatever. However, this is insignificant as this is an outstanding making of book. One of the best I've read in I don't know how long, and it's all thanks to the text, which is a delightful surprise after the rather lackluster affair that was the making of book for Phantom Menace. So I wasn't expecting much from this one, as it's written by Jodie Duncan, who co-authored the Phantom Menace book, whereas with this book she's the sole author, and I don't want to unfairly speculate why that is, but whatever the case, this one's a much better book text-wise. And I don't want to oversell it, it's not like this is comparable to the Rinsler making of books for the original trilogy. This is still very much in the style of your standard movie tie-in making of book, and so it still has some of those same foibles. But I've been reading a lot of these kind of books recently, and just despairing over how boring and poorly written and thought out and samey they are. If you watched my review I did the other week on the Prince Caspian book, this book's basically the complete opposite of that. And so it was just completely refreshing for this book to come along and remind me, no, these books can be really good when they're written by someone who knows what they're doing. So what exactly is the writing in this book doing that's so great then? Well, largely it's due to the way the book's structured. It follows the movie chronologically, scene by scene, whereas with most making of books, each chapter focuses on a certain department or area of the film. And I've come to find this is a pretty bad approach because it results in the author or the filmmakers discussing what their job is in a general sense and what they did on the film in a general sense, with maybe a few specific examples. Whereas in this book, the author and the filmmakers, rather than having to summarize all the work they did on the whole movie, which is impossible, instead in this case they only have to supply an anecdote for each scene, which is much more manageable. And so it feels like a much better dissection of the movie. How or why was this specific thing done for this specific scene? And this specificity is what so many other making of books lack. It's a very intelligent way of avoiding the broad view most making of books force upon themselves. So with this book it actually feels like I'm learning about the making of this movie. I don't know how many making of books I've reviewed where I've said something to the effect of, yeah, there is some really good information in here, but you've got to dig through a lot of boring crap. Whereas with this book, with the exception of a little too much retelling of the story, I would say at least 85% of the text is great and informative and deserves to be here, which is actually an insanely high percentage compared to most other books, unfortunate as that may be. In addition to plenty of really nice anecdotes throughout, the book's very fact-heavy. Dates, places, how things were done, why things were done. A lot of emphasis on why certain things were added or cut, which I really like. And so it's a really great record of this production. Every so often there'll be a page called Notes from the Set, which capture these sort of candid, fly-on-the-wall, particular moments in time. It's a cool way to really make you feel like you're there on the set, even for just a brief moment. Now, the book is certainly not super in-depth or comprehensive, but that's more to do with the sad reality that a book only has a finite number of pages. But working within that framework, the information here is so much better than what you typically find in these sort of books. The images are also pretty great. Models, progress shots, animatics, a little bit of art, not a whole lot, but of course tons and tons of really great behind-the-scenes type photography. Overall, it's just a lot of stuff that I've never seen before, including Zam Wessel's hair, so what more do you want? Less impressive is the number of stills from the movie itself, which there are just so many, and it's completely unnecessary. I wonder if it's because they often release these books ahead of the movie and are just using it to promote ticket sales by showing off what a visual spectacle it is. Which, I don't even know what sort of idiot would read these sort of books before seeing the movie anyway, so I just wish they had got rid of all the stills and used that space for more text. Now, so far I've tried to carefully qualify my praise by saying things like the writing in this book is amazing rather than this book is amazing. And that's because, taken as a whole product, the book is severely let down by the design. And I have to take the time to point this out because this is seriously one of the ugliest books I've reviewed on this channel. It's just an over-designed eyesore. absolute bedlam. I love visually overwhelming books, but this is just a gaudy fever dream. I mean, even the cover, not only is it boring, they couldn't even just take normal images and make them monochrome. They also felt the need to posterize them, but it just makes it look bizarre and low quality. I also don't think I've ever criticized a book for having too many images before, but just going back to what I said about getting rid of the stills, even if they couldn't have added more text, just get rid of them. The book already has enough great behind-the-scenes images without adding to the visual chaos. But ultimately, this is just sort of an indulgent rant, because the fact is, although I absolutely believe bad design can completely ruin a book, in this case it really doesn't matter and shouldn't have any impact on your decision whether to get the book or not when compared to just how strong the content of the text is. And that's what pulls this book away from the blandness of the Phantom Menace making of book and brings itself to the usual place held by Star Wars books at the head of the class.